Good morning. My name is Jane Scarf, and I'm coming to you from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And I have some good news for you, and it's with regard to the mandatory vaccine policy. What we were presented sounded like the Premier Ford was introducing mandatory vaccine. No, he introduced mandatory vaccine policy, and he gave conditions for those policies, and they were deadline September 7th, today, and asking for their employees to reveal their vaccines data or to take a course about vaccines. And they're playing on words. They're making you think that now it's law that your employer must demand that you have a vaccine, when nothing could be further from the truth. In his policy that he's asking for and saying is mandatory, first of all, he has no power to do that. He didn't even pass a law regarding that. So it's not even a rinky-dink bylaw this time. It's just puff and smoke. You know, I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. Good luck. We have a brick house. And it's based on our rights. We have all kinds of rights that absolutely prevent the government from mandating vaccine, or even mandating that we tell them whether we have a vaccine or not. We have the right to informed consent, right off, and we have the right to privacy also. So there will be liability for any company that is trying to force an individual to either be vaxxed or to declare whether they're not vaxxed, or to declare whether they're vaxxed or not, because that's a violation of rights. And it's a severe violation of rights, so severe that there's criminal provisions in the Criminal Code 265.3 that prohibits any kind of activity contrary to the person's consent. And there's a description of what consent is. And certainly you can't work here anymore unless you do this, or you can't shop here. That obviously qualifies as coercion and makes those activities illegal under the Criminal Code, but also there's a tort that you can pursue. Either if informed consent is not being permitted, or if coercion and so on is used to get the consent, and same thing with violating your privacy. In 2012, the Supreme Court of Ontario clearly allows for anybody to sue anybody else for breach of privacy. And they made a list of what they considered to be sensitive information, and obviously medical information was on that list. So I want everybody to reevaluate what they heard and like recognize that it's a psyop, and actually look at it as a victory, because all of the stuff they did prior to this, they passed rinky-dink bylaws to try and make it appear as though we were going into martial law. But our police said, no, we're not doing that. Military, same thing. Because we have rights. We have especially the Canadian Bill of Rights, which prohibits the police, bylaw, public health, any peace officers from violating our rights, because they're all covered in the criminal code. Their powers and their regulations are in the criminal code, so they must adhere to the Canadian Bill of Rights. So in Ontario, they can create rinky-dink bylaws, but they can't enforce them. So whoop-de-doo. And now, for some reason, they didn't even create a rinky-dink bylaw this time. They just, got a, like the Wizard of Oz, got out their megaphone and, tried to roar that we're coming to get you with the vaccine. And it scared a lot of people, for sure. And it scared me until I recognized the bottom line of it. So basically, the companies that are going to be doing that, our recommendation is that any individuals that are actually doing the hands-on coercion, they're the ones that are going to bear the liability. And I think that's going to be much more effective. The persons that actually do it be responsible for doing it, not converting or throwing it back to the corporation and remove themselves from any responsibility. Not happening. Just like in Nuremberg, the Nazis that so cruelly dealt with the Jews tried to defend themselves by saying, we were only following orders. At Nuremberg, no, you're responsible. You're responsible for the harm done, even if you are instructed to do it by an authority. You are causing harm. You are responsible. And if you want to say that there's some responsibility, then it's up to you to get your money back from those entities. You sue them. We're suing you. The one that's in our face saying, you can't come in here unless you have proof of your vaccination, or you can't work here anymore because you're not giving us proof of your vaccination. You're getting sued. And for employment, it's going to be a heavy lawsuit because it's a loss of your livelihood. For business, it's going to be like loss in a retail. It's going to be somewhere between, I don't know, say 5,000 to 10,000. But for loss of employment, it's much, much greater than that. So anyways, I'm just going to leave you with that thought. And we're still working twice a week now on preparing notices of liabilities for the various situations. We've already put one out last Friday for somebody that's being refused services at a restaurant or somewhere because they don't have a vaccine. We have one there and an instruction guide, and there's a video of the Zoom call that we had that gives more detail. And then tonight we have one for two situations for employees that are being required to prove their vaccination status, or students that are being told you can't come to school unless you prove your vaccination. So we have two different ones. And as well, we're going to give instructions, a guide, like a written guide, and we will give some instruction on the video itself. So Rebecca Shepherd has set up a Zoom for 8 o'clock this evening, and it's through Stand for Thee. I'll put the link in the comments below. And if you have any questions, you can email me at mjslegalservices@yahoo.com. But I want to leave you with this. We are winning. They didn't even make a rinky-dink bylaw this time because they didn't get away with making illegal rinky-dink bylaws. So they're not even going there this time. They're trying to pretend that there's some kind of power behind their assertion that they want mandatory vaccine policies. They didn't even mandate the actual vaccine. So that's actually removing them from any responsibility too, by the way. So if you're a business watching this, they are not mandating you to require vaccination. They're just asking you to give them your policy. So, big difference.